Well, it's Tuesday, and as expected, somebody's got some explaining to do. What's up, guys? It's Phil, and well, what can we say? It's Tuesday, the numbers are in, and the reckoning is upon us. Cray Double K should be getting called onto the carpet by Mr. Iger himself. There's a lot of problems, and we all knew that this was going to happen. We could see it coming from a mile away, and everything that we thought was going to happen came to fruition. So here we are. This is Den of Geek. This is Solo, a Star Wars story. Box office crashes with 103 million in 4 days. Solo, a Star Wars story, opened to dismal numbers over Memorial Day weekend, with just 103 million in the U.S. and worse overseas. Worse. I mean, it just gets worse and worse. This article is by David Crow, and it says, as it turns out, an intended franchise with the title of Solo may have to be just that, a solo. A one and done affair. Absolutely. Why not? It should be. It should have been a none and done, actually. After nearly a year of major speculation about the fate of Disney and Lucasfilm's latest standalone spin-off film from the galaxy far, far away, Solo, a Star Wars story, didn't so much come in for a smooth landing during its Memorial Day opening weekend at the box office as it skidded across the runway while losing landing gear along the way and slid right into a detention-level garbage masher where it was promptly discarded, squished into oblivion, and hopefully never to be seen again. Now that might sound harsh, especially with my embellishment, especially as I personally really liked Solo. So David Crow really likes Solo. But there is no way to spin the movie fallen well short of expectations. With an open 3-day weekend, it looks to be about 84.8 million. And a 4-day weekend that is now estimated to be 103 million as per official studio estimates, which is up 2 million from previous projections. So yay for 2 million. I mean, a turd by any other name is a turd. We can't continue to look at this through rose Tico colored glasses. Given that this is the latest movie in the Star Wars franchise, which since being acquired by Disney hasn't failed to open at less than $150 million, and indeed has seen all three previous entries clear $1 billion worldwide, which is never going to happen for this movie. This is the epitome of a box office disappointment, or a bomb. As they've been saying. It's a flop, it's a bomb, it's just the worst case scenario. The dismal opening follows what has been an infamously troubled production that's generated negative industry buzz since summer 2017, when Lucasfilm decided to part ways with the original directors hired to film the movie, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, and they were fired. And I'm sure there's at this point I'm all in on the fact that Phil Lord and Chris Miller took Lawrence and John Kasdan's script, and they were in fact filming a musical. It was going to be a complete musical, the Star Wars musical. Solo, a Star Wars musical, which would have been fantastic. I'm sure there was a huge scene with water dancers and sparklers, confetti. Rip Taylor they brought back. It was going to be something the likes of which no one has ever seen before in a galaxy far, far away. With all the pomp and circumstance, and I'm sure Pando would have fit right into these musical numbers. Replaced with industry vet Ron Howard, a good guy who came in to clean up after 5 months of production, Lord and Miller were ultimately only given an executive producer credit. And as far as per Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy, Cray Double K, 70% of the final film was shot and reshot by Howard. Oy, what an expense. This has led to a general apprehension to the film and press it's generated in the last 11 months, culminated in generally favorable but apathetic reviews. Apathy is the last thing you want. If you're an artist and you turn out a product, you don't want apathy to be the response, okay? A lack of interest or enthusiasm in something that you're doing is one of the most offensive things that could happen in an artistic endeavor. I mean, if just nobody cares about what you've done, that's an empty feeling. And this is, it's kind of a half-empty movie. I mean, some people kind of like it, but what's been going on? Fans have become apathetic. And that's not where you want to be with Star Wars. If you're running a Star Wars franchise, you don't want apathetic fans, because that is not going to lead to good box office, and this is evidence of that. This is in stark contrast to what typically greets Disney's Star Wars films, as well as Disney's popular Marvel Studios output. Our own Don Kay was particularly unimpressed by a movie he deemed relentlessly average, like a throbbing headache that won't go away, except it's just it beats you over the head with averageness. It doesn't stop. However, the fan base who did see Solo appears to have enjoyed the experience, giving it an A- as per industry WOM tracker CinemaScore. Again, with CinemaScore, notably the previous Disney Star Wars movies have all earned an A. Listen, again, Rotten Tomatoes is where people goes. All right, so we can see the tomato meter is at 70. Top critics are at 59, so they gave it a splat, and 62% liked it. So as far as I remember, when I was back in high school, 62% meant you had to go to summer school. Erin and Kira, Pando, Woody, all you guys, L337, get your book bags, get your pencils and your erasers, your rulers. Summer school for everyone. Okay, yeah, you have to take a Star Wars course and learn how to make a good Star Wars movie for the fan community, because this is a nightmare. You've all got a failing grade. I don't care. This 62 is not passing. Okay, not in my class, not in the fans class. All right. Let's see here. So where were we? CinemaScore, and personally, I found it to be an unexpectedly pleasant film, more reminiscent of World War II era crime capers than the typical mythic bombast that has come to be associated with Star Wars ever since the prequels. I'd certainly argue it has more flavor than many a Disney Marvel movie that received far more glowing reviews. Okay, I don't know what that is up there. Be that as it may, Solo was always a tough sell, replacing Harrison Ford in one of his most iconic roles, and only 3 years after he appeared as Han Solo one final time in The Force Awakens, always seemed like an unenticing offer. Absolutely, and most people weren't buying what they were offering. And the new movie seems to have failed to justify why Disney would recast a beloved character with relative unknown Alden Ehrenreich, leaving critics and wary audiences alike baffled. As such, the film's numbers are fairly ghastly, considering that Solo has expected to gross at least $130 million by the industry over 4 days, and just barely $803 in that time frame. For context, the last major Memorial Day release, X-Men: Days of Future Past, blah blah blah. Let's see. That is also at a budget far less than Solo, which after reshoots is speculated to be at $250 million. Oh my God. Although some have claimed without sourcing it is upwards of $300 million. Wow. I mean, and they're looking at maybe a $400 million overall take globally. It'll never make a profit. This is a loss. This is a loss and an embarrassment. It's a major embarrassment for Disney and for Lucasfilm, and a big red X on Kathleen Kennedy. This is a flag. There's a big red flag waving over Lucasfilm today. In comparison, last weekend's Deadpool 2 grossed $105 million, over 3 years, $100 million. All right, we don't care. So yes, Solo is the lowest opener in the Star Wars franchise since Attack of the Clones, grossed $80 million over 3 days in 2002. That is a lifetime ago on the scale of box office inflation. Some of the fan community are trying to blame these low numbers on a supposedly mixed reception for The Last Jedi from December. Yeah, that's a big part of it, I would say. Fans have had it. We're pissed off. All right. However, this seems questionable, given that once you exit the message board Reddit culture around Star Wars, in which collectively can appear furious at the December release, The Last Jedi was fairly well received by critics who were shills, who wanted to stay in the good graces of Disney. The fans hated it. Most of the fans, I mean, it at least split the fandom in half. And this is the end result. I mean, you ended up with your boycott of this movie. So, it got caught up in the crosshairs, and an example had to be made. And an $103 million example was made this weekend for a movie that was projected to make $170 million. So, touche, cray double K. Besides being the best reviewed Star Wars movie since The Empire Strikes Back, it had a strong box office run after its opening weekend, grossing $1.3 billion, receiving an A from CinemaScore. Again, first of all, can we stop calling everything the best Star Wars movie since The Empire Strikes Back? Stop. We know this is the benchmark. this doesn't even carry this film's jock. They're not in the same league. Okay, this is a bad imitation. It's bad fanfic. It's garbage. It's shit. And its intention was to piss off half the audience, and it succeeded in that. And it's carried over to the rest of the movies now, and that's a big problem. And Rian Johnson has to go. If Kathleen Kennedy keeps to support this round-headed buffoon, then she has to go. JJ, he's already hired, but after this, he can go. And let's get Dave Filoni in there. That's what we want. So let's continue to bang that drum. The failures of Solo are more likely the result of a year-long buzz of doubt and insinuation, as well as a general resistance in the culture to see someone other than Harrison Ford play one of cinema's most iconic rogues and scoundrels. He was so good in Empire. In the whole trilogy, I mean, he phoned it in a little bit in Jedi, but I mean, it was still Harrison Ford playing Han Solo, and Harrison Ford just has that if factor with that character. Alden doesn't even come close. It's bad. It's bad comedy. A bigger cause for concern, though, for Disney is the growing sense of apathy. Again, there's that word. That's a bad word. That might as well be a 4-letter word. There's 6 letters there, but that might as well be 4 letters. And rejection of Star Wars properties in China and larger overseas markets, while, unlike Disney's Marvel Cinematic Universe, Star Wars still relies almost as heavily on the domestic box office as the international one. An average of only 55% of the last 3 Disney Star Wars grosses were made overseas. Solo opened to historically bad numbers abroad. For instance, Solo had a $3.3 million open day in the second biggest market for American blockbusters in the world, nearly 2/3 down from The Last Jedi's also anemic $9.7 million opening day. Since then, Solo grossed only $10.1 million in China for its opening weekend, nearly 2/3 down from The Last Jedi's already mediocre Chinese opening of $28.7 million, all of which helped contribute to Solo's nigh disastrous international open of only $65 million. Well, look, the Chinese knew, just like the Americans knew. The Last Jedi was a steaming pile of garbage. It was a dumpster fire. It was a horrible movie. It further discredited our beloved legacy characters, and helped to further ruin what used to be a great franchise, and it's tarnished the original trilogy. If you really go back and watch those characters now and see how they ended up years later, it's kind of hard to watch. Rian Johnson made that movie in a bubble. Now we have to watch the original trilogy in a bubble. We have to disregard it as canon if we want to enjoy those movies. It's a bad thing. If this trend continues, Star Wars seems like to remain a mostly Western fantasy, which could curtail its chances of competing with Marvel superhero movies that are embraced by Asian markets by even larger numbers every year. Okay, so here's the deal. This movie, it did really bad the first weekend. Okay, $103 million in 4 days. That's really bad. Okay, now next weekend though, that's going to be even worse. All right, the Last Jedi, that movie had almost a 70% drop its second weekend, because bad word of mouth, and people really lost interest. And the fans who went back to see The Force Awakens a million times, they didn't go back to see this The Last Jedi, and to pad the box office, that helps a lot. And that didn't happen with The Last Jedi, and you know what? It's definitely not going to happen with this movie. So if this movie made $103 million in its opening weekend, the best it could hope is for a 70% drop. So that means its second weekend, it's going to make $31 million. It's going to go from 103 to 31 million. Okay, and if its overseas take was 65, and it drops 70, you're looking at like 20 million. So next week, this movie, if it's lucky globally, it'll make 51 million, 50, 51, 52, whatever. That's it, and then it's done after that. It's over. It's a 2-week run, and then it'll be pennies from that point forward. So, listen, if the whole goal of this was to send a message, then something has been sent. Now, the mainstream media has been denying the fact that maybe the fans had an impact. They've had all these other reasons, Star Wars fatigue, is it, male characters, people are tired of white male characters in a lead role because they can identify with them, which is just a bunch of nonsense. A hero's journey is a hero's journey. I don't care who they are, what their preferences are, what color they are, what race they are. It doesn't matter. I mean, I love characters that Black Panther. I love that that character and that story. When the Blade movies came out, I loved Wesley Snipes' Blade. I thought it was badass. I wanted to be a vampire hunter. I didn't really care like what color they were. So fans just want to be entertained. They want good storytelling, and they want to have fun. And they don't want, all of this nonsense, identity politics, and being called racist and sexist, and all this other nonsense. And they don't want to shove down their throat, and they're not going to stand for it. And we're not standing for it. This is like I said, this is the battlefield. The lines have been drawn, and you know what? This is you reap what you sow. Okay, and man, did it come back to bite you in the ass. So you know what? Clean up your yard, get your shit together, and figure out what you need to do. And if you want, I'm sure the fans will be happy to hold you by the hand and explain exactly what needs to happen, because there's plenty of us out there who will offer our services. So, all right, guys, have a great night, and I will see you sometime soon, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, who knows. But take care, be happy, be safe, be healthy. Bye.